Her voice cut through the hum of the shopping plaza as she accused the man in the red MAGA hat of being a threat to public safety. The crowd froze, watching as his quiet composure clashed with her fiery outrage. But no one, not even she, realized that beneath the modest appearance of this shopper was the most powerful figure in the county. When the truth came out, the fallout was nothing short of shocking, and it all began with a single call to the police. The afternoon sun bore down relentlessly on the parking lot of the suburban shopping plaza. The air shimmered with heat waves rising off the asphalt, while the occasional breeze did little to cool the bustling scene. Shoppers, dressed in shorts and tank tops, maneuvered their carts between cars, their movements quick and purposeful as they sought refuge in the air-conditioned interiors of the stores. The sound of distant car horns, the faint chatter of people, and the rhythmic screech of shopping cart wheels filled the air, creating a lively but chaotic atmosphere. Among the sea of vehicles, a dark blue pickup truck pulled into a spot near the store entrance. Its tires crunched on the gravel scattered across the lot. The driver, Jonathan Miller, stepped out with the unhurried demeanor of a man unbothered by the rush around him. In his late 40s, Jonathan carried himself with an air of quiet authority. His tall, broad-shouldered frame and upright posture hinted at a life of discipline. His salt and pepper hair was neatly trimmed, and his strong jawline was softened by a calm, thoughtful expression. Jonathan adjusted the red MAGA cap on his head, the bright fabric standing out against his gray polo shirt. The shirt, tucked neatly into his faded jeans, hinted at his practical nature. His leather belt and scuffed work boots suggested a man who didn't shy away from hard work. As he retrieved a shopping cart, his movements were deliberate, his face a mask of composure. Across the lot, Karen Thompson emerged from a shiny white SUV. She was a woman in her mid-50s, her platinum blonde hair styled in a sharp bob that framed her angular face. Karen's attire was as loud as her personality. A vibrant floral blouse, stark white capri pants, and oversized sunglasses perched on her nose. Chunky jewelry adorned her neck and wrists, jangling with every exaggerated movement. Karen's sharp eyes zeroed in on Jonathan's hat, and her face twisted into a scowl. "Excuse me," she called, her voice slicing through the ambient noise like a knife. She stormed across the parking lot, her sandals slapping against the pavement. Jonathan looked up from his cart, his blue eyes meeting hers with a steady gaze. "Yes, ma'am?" Karen planted her hands on her hips, her bracelets clinking. "Do you really think it's appropriate to wear that in public?" she demanded, gesturing toward his hat as though it were a personal affront. Jonathan's brow furrowed slightly, but his tone remained polite. "I'm just here to pick up a few things. I'm not looking for trouble." Karen's voice rose, drawing the attention of nearby shoppers. "That hat is offensive. It represents everything that's wrong with this country." Jonathan let out a measured breath. "I respect your opinion, ma'am. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have groceries to buy." Karen wasn't satisfied. "People like you shouldn't be allowed to spread hatred," she shouted, her voice ringing across the lot. Jonathan gave her a brief nod and turned toward the store. Fuming, Karen yanked her phone from her purse, her fingers flying across the screen. "I'm calling the police," she muttered to herself. "We'll see how you like it when the law gets involved." Inside the supermarket, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Bright fluorescent lights illuminated the gleaming tile floors, reflecting off neatly stocked shelves that stretched in orderly rows. The air was cool, a welcome reprieve from the oppressive heat, and carried the faint scent of freshly baked bread from the bakery section. Shoppers moved about with quiet purpose, the occasional beep of registers and soft rustle of bags creating a rhythmic background noise. Jonathan pushed his cart down the produce aisle, pausing to inspect a pile of apples. His hands moved methodically, testing each piece for firmness before placing it into a plastic bag. His calm demeanor stood out amid the hurried pace of other shoppers. Karen entered the store moments later, her sunglasses now perched on her head, revealing sharp green eyes that scanned the aisles with laser focus. Her posture was stiff, her expression a mix of anger and determination. Spotting Jonathan near the fruit section, she strode toward him, her sandals slapping against the polished floor. "Excuse me," she called, her voice sharp and grating. Jonathan glanced up, meeting her fiery gaze with a neutral expression. "Yes, ma'am?" Karen pointed an accusatory finger at his hat. "You're upsetting people with that symbol. It has no place here." Jonathan straightened, his calm gaze unwavering. "I'm just here to buy groceries, ma'am. I'm not causing any trouble." A young store associate, barely out of his teens, noticed the commotion. His green apron hung loosely on his lanky frame, and his curly brown hair seemed to mirror his nervous energy. He hesitated for a moment before approaching. "Is everything all right?" he asked, his voice tentative. Karen spun toward him, her bracelets jangling. "No, it's not all right. This man is wearing offensive propaganda and it's upsetting everyone." The associate blinked, his cheeks flushing. Ma'am, I don't think—" "Call the police!" Karen interrupted, her voice rising. "This kind of behavior cannot go unchecked." Jonathan sighed, picking up a bag of oranges. "Look, I'm just trying to shop. Let's not make this a bigger deal than it needs to be." Karen ignored him, pulling out her phone to start recording. "We'll see what the police have to say about this." Outside, the quiet hum of the parking lot was interrupted by the wail of approaching sirens. 2 police cruisers pulled up, their flashing lights casting red and blue streaks across the shiny surfaces of parked cars. Shoppers paused to watch, their conversations turning into whispers. 2 officers stepped out of the vehicles. The first, a stocky man with a neatly trimmed beard, adjusted his utility belt as he surveyed the scene. The second, a petite woman with piercing blue eyes, approached with a calm but authoritative demeanor. Both moved toward the store entrance with purpose. Jonathan had just exited the store, his cart filled with neatly arranged groceries. The officers intercepted him near the sliding doors. "Sir," the bearded officer began, his tone cautious, "we received a report about a disturbance involving you." Karen burst out of the store behind Jonathan, her phone held high as she recorded. "That's him," she shouted. "He's the one causing all the trouble." The female officer glanced at Karen, her expression skeptical, before turning back to Jonathan. "What's going on here?" Jonathan met her gaze evenly. "Not sure, officer. I'm just here to buy groceries." Karen waved her phone. "Look at that hat. It's offensive. He shouldn't be allowed to wear it in public." The female officer's eyes flicked to Jonathan's hat, then back to his calm face. There was a moment of hesitation before recognition dawned in her expression, though she said nothing. Before the situation could escalate, a sleek black SUV rolled into the lot, its tinted windows obscuring the interior. The vehicle came to a stop, and out stepped Captain Mark Wilson, his presence commanding immediate attention. Tall and broad-shouldered, Mark was in his late 50s, his silver hair neatly combed, and his navy blue uniform impeccably pressed. The gold insignia on his chest gleamed in the sunlight. His sharp brown eyes scanned the scene as he approached. "What's going on here?" he asked, his deep voice carrying authority. Karen rushed to explain, gesturing wildly. "This man is causing a scene with his offensive hat. He's upsetting everyone." Mark's gaze shifted to Jonathan, and a slow smile spread across his face. "Good afternoon, Jonathan. Everything all right?" Karen froze, her eyes darting between the 2 men. "Wait, you know him?" Mark chuckled, crossing his arms. "Know him? He's my boss, Jonathan Miller. chief of police for this county. The murmurs among the gathering crowd grew louder as Mark's words sank in. Karen's face turned a deep shade of red, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I didn't know," she stammered, her bravado evaporating. Mark's tone hardened, his commanding presence unshakable. "Ma'am, you called in a false report, wasting police resources and causing unnecessary alarm. That's a serious offense." Karen's hands fidgeted with her phone, her earlier confidence replaced by panic. "I was just trying to protect the community." Jonathan finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. "Ma'am, wearing a hat isn't a crime. Harassing someone and making false accusations, though, is." The bearded officer nodded in agreement. "We'll need to take your statement, ma'am. Please come with us." Karen groaned, her shoulders slumping as she followed the officers to one of the cruisers. Jonathan turned back to Mark, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Thanks for stepping in, Mark. I didn't want this to turn into a circus." Mark chuckled, clapping him on the shoulder. "You handled it better than most would have. Let me know if you need anything else." As Jonathan loaded his groceries into his truck, a few onlookers approached, their expressions filled with admiration. One woman, her voice warm and encouraging, said, "Good for you, standing your ground." Jonathan tipped his hat slightly, his blue eyes twinkling with quiet pride. Just doing what's right. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the lot, Jonathan climbed into his truck and drove away. Behind him, the crowd began to disperse, leaving behind a powerful reminder of the importance of resilience and integrity.